Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So welcome back, everyone. We're carrying on with the Four Noble Truths book by Ajahn Sumedho, and we're on the topic of right speech, right action, and right livelihood. We begin to realize that we have to be careful about what we do and say, otherwise we constantly hurt ourselves. So that's where we regret, that I wish I didn't say this. I wish I had been careful. I wish I had been silent instead of speaking. Now I have regret. And that's when we should have applied more mindfulness in our actions, in our speech. That's why there's a discourse by the Buddha given to his son Rahula, where he says to think before you speak, before you act, very, very carefully. Is this going to be beneficial for me, beneficial for others, beneficial for both of us, or will it bring harm to me, to others, or both of us? And then whatever action you do, you have to reflect again and again before you do that action. Otherwise, you later on become very remorseful. So if you do or say things that are unkind or cruel, there is always an immediate result. So in the past, you might have been able to get away with lying by distracting yourself, going on to something else so that you don't have to think about it. You could forget all about things for a while until eventually they come back upon you. And this is what happens when you meditate. Things become magnified. Every small action we did in the past, or some harmful action we did, or some lying or anything, it becomes very big in our mind, and we get remorseful about it. So we have to be careful. When we become more responsible about our speech, then we are becoming more mindful because we think before we speak. Whenever somebody needs help, it's our natural tendency to help this person. So we go to help them recover from their fainting spell. That becomes an automatic impulse in our system, in our minds. And that's then it is simply a skillful Dhamma, the way things are. It becomes very skillful. The monastic discipline, it's called the Patimokkha, is like a container to contain all your energies so that they are channeled in the right direction for purposeful thinking and activities. The natural flow of the events or the natural flow of life, we try to minimize the disturbance. So we don't do any farming or anything like that. And our livelihood is dependent on the lay people. So whatever we do by body, speech, or mind, we are generating karmic energy or karmic energy, and that will come back to us. So when you meditate, the more you meditate, the more you can control your speech faculties. what you say, and also the thinking process, what you think. So that is compounding effect. The more you meditate, the more you have control on the speech. The more you have control on the speech, the more you can meditate much better and comfortably and easily. So for lay people, right livelihood is something that is developed as you come to know your intentions for what you do. You can try to avoid deliberately harming other creatures or earning a living in a harmful, unkind way. You can also try to avoid livelihood which may cause other people to become addicted to drugs or drink, or which might endanger the ecological balance of the planet. These three, right action, right speech, and right livelihood, follow from right understanding or right view or perfect knowing. So right view is very important to cultivate. Like I said, we have to have initial minimum right view, and then we develop that right view through the other sevenfold factors of the path. So we learn to take care of ourselves, and by taking care of ourselves, we take care of others. We take care of the planet. We take care of everything as far as we can, because now we become responsible for our actions. It's not like the will of God or anybody that is doing this. It is our own action. We are responsible for what we do, and we have to take that responsibility on ourselves. Wisdom leads to controlling our bodies, our bodily actions, which means discipline. And the more discipline we have, the more comfortably we can live in society or by ourselves or with other monastics. We have to generate a lot of volition, willing, this craving force of craving. And eventually it eats away at us. It torments us, and that we don't get full satisfaction. There is just a certain limit to how much pleasures we can generate. Beyond that, there is no more. So the limit is very shallow and very little, and the suffering is quite a lot involved. So it's just not worth the energy we spend on things that we try to generate so much pleasures, but all we find is just it's frustrating and tormenting because it's not fulfilling. It never fulfills us. The only time these desires are fulfilled is when we let go of them. We contain ourselves. We do not use certain energies and also for killing and stealing and all these. It takes a lot of volition and energy, and it always comes back to us. We cannot sleep. You know, people who steal and kill, they have a guilty conscience sometimes, or there are times when they're always like, is there somebody behind me? They have to keep looking in the back to see if somebody's following them, because, you know, now they have this unrest in the mind because they did like heavy karma, heavy actions. So when we talk about concentration, samadhi is the word we use, Pali word, bhavana, samadhi. And concentration is to try and focus on one thing at the expense of everything else. Trying to generate a mind that focuses on one object, and a peaceful object, not well, not a disturbing object, a very peaceful object. And the breath usually is a peaceful, very peaceful object because it's 99% empty, it's air, it's immaterial. So it doesn't disturb us in any way. And it's very silent. And it doesn't create any kind of, distraction. And the breath is with us, as long as we live. So it's very handy to be able to catch the breath and focus our attention, because it's not like the beads where people use the beads. We need to have beads all the time, but the breath is with us all the time. Sustained attention, keep your mind focused on the breath. When we say keep bringing it into consciousness, it's just keep your attention as far and as deep as you can. You'll see the results coming slowly. In the beginning, people will say, why am I just focusing on this when I can do millions of other things? But it's a very good exercise to just be able to stay in the present moment, and then you will see the benefits as you carry on with it. So in this way, you are moving towards what is going on in your own body, rather than being pulled out into objects of the senses. This is important because it grounds us to the present reality, what's happening within us, and just in the near vicinity around us, rather than we are being pulled by, our attention is rather being pulled away from us by this and that and many other duties we have and responsibilities, children and cats and dogs, animals, friends, society. They all take away our attention. They all take away part of our lives, because we have to take care of them. And care means we have to leave one thing at the expense of another. So that's what care is. Sacrificing the present for something else. So in this way, you are moving towards what is going in your body, rather than being pulled out into objects of the senses. And the senses always look out and seek objects that are correspondingly attuned to it. So the senses of the sense eyes, these are the visual senses. They are attracted by objects that have shapes, texture and light. The ears, they are attracted to vibrations of objects which make sounds. The nose smells, the tongue tastes, anything that has a taste. And our tactile sensation, we touch, we like to touch, feel the texture, feel the firmness, and so on. And then we have the mind, which wanders around, the sixth sense. Mind is the sixth sense, and the mind objects are all of the other objects of the five senses. And we are kind of being pulled into those. But here, when we meditate, we kind of separate ourselves from all these external, internal disturbances. And as it were, center ourselves. We have to separate as much as we can from those things that are dragging us away from ourselves. You know, the Dhammapada saying, we are what we think. All that we are is the result of our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. In other words, with our thoughts, we create reality, our reality as here and now. So that's very important, to give your mind a direction, give your thinking processes a direction, rather than being scattered around and being pulled by circumstances, by whatever happens. The samatha meditation is a way to nirvana. It's a means to an end. It's not an end in itself, which is very important to realize. Just being peaceful and blissed out is not enough. So we start with being a good person, observing the morality, the sila, and then we do the samatha meditation or the bhavana, which is meditation, and then we develop to wisdom or develop the insight. The samatha means is that one becomes tranquil, one becomes calm. So when the mind is developed, then one is balanced. When the mind is developed, one has clarity. One is able to think clearly when you're meditating, and when you can separate all the distractions from your mind, and when your mind is concentrated, sharp, focused, laser focused, then you can think clearly. That's why the meditation that we do, it has a kind of, the result is a kind of thinking that is like a genius kind of thinking, which is concentrating on one thing. And a concentrated mind can solve problems. A distracted mind cannot solve problems, because you are everywhere. People have this attitude that they have to do something to make the world a better place. And it's not a bad attitude. And but if one sets oneself up, one improves oneself, one becomes enlightened, then that spreads slowly to others, and then we are setting things straight. People have problems and they come to us, and we offer them all the alternative solutions that they can work on, and see which options A, options B, options C that are useful for them, because we have gone through probably that path, we have seen it, we have also gone through this path, the Eightfold Path, and we've seen it, and we have a contrast between these two paths and all the problems that arise in society, so we can become a little bit more helpful as a guide for people when in solving their problems as far as we can. So sometimes you have to let things work out for themselves, rather than to get frustrated, rather than get disturbed. Let go of things and let go of situations, and they will work themselves out, and gradually you get back on track, as it were. You learn to let go at times. It's a good situation for some people to understand, is to experience what it's like to go in a certain direction, and then to see, is that productive? Is that good for us? Is that going to end up in a beneficial situation or unbeneficial situation? So sometimes we just have to let things go in a certain direction and let the energies they get used up. even with ourselves, with our meditation practice or with our sila, which is our precepts, the discipline, the lay discipline, keeping the 5 precepts, which is not to kill, not to steal, not to lie, not to commit sexual misconduct, and all these things. Sometimes we have to go in that path to understand that this is not good for me. Taking intoxication, drinking alcohol all day and binge drinking, taking drugs, it's just going to lead in one way and it's a dead end. So sometimes it has to be worked out. Sometimes we have to experience these situations to know from experience that better not go in this direction. It's just going to harm me. So we have to allow things to go down before they can go up again. So we have to bear with it, be patient. It's a kind of patience, being willing to bear with something, allowing it to change naturally rather than egoistically trying to prop and fight everything and cleaning it all up out of aversion and distaste for a mess. So there are people who magnify their problems. It's not a big problem, not a big issue, but it becomes a big issue when they see it from that angle, from their own viewpoint. They make it very big by being hurt very emotionally. So small things can harm unenlightened or immature, emotionally immature people a lot. But when you have patience and tolerance and all this, then you can let things go and then it will develop better. It's not that we are careless or heedless, but we realize that in life there are so many things that will go wrong. The Murphy's law, Murphy's law. When things will go wrong, they will go wrong. Everything takes longer than you expect. And when things go wrong, they'll go wrong at the right time. Just when you need your car, it might not work. You have a very important place to go to, a function, and the car won't work. So things go wrong at the right time. The world is in a way that it offers challenges, but these challenges, if we take it with the right attitude, it helps us to develop our minds. If we did not have challenges, what would happen? We'd become lazy, complacent, and not develop, really. So the way the life is the way it is, and it's a good way, because that way we can be challenged, and by being challenged, we can work on things and develop ourselves. When you have developed your minds, then these things don't affect you. This is life. It is this way. If somebody speaks in a cross tone, if somebody speaks in a harsh way, in a harsh tone or with a harsh voice, you're going to feel it. But then the mind can go on and be offended more and more. Then we are carrying that person in our minds. Somebody might say something to you, and then you keep carrying that person day and night. Oh, why did he say this? Why did he do this? Why did this happen? Oh, poor me. We can carry that person to our sleep. We can carry that person in our work day, every day, in our minds. There are environments where you go where people will talk nice about you and say you're wonderful and you're this and that, just to make you a feel-good effect. They don't know you, they don't know how you're feeling, but they just say it just to make you feel like that. But it's not a cure, it doesn't help you actually. A real friend is somebody who will tell you, well, you're like this, man, you suck, you're not good at this. And that's what you need, is a person who says, well, the truth, you know, you got to do better, you got to do this, you got to do that. So it's helpful. But people who say, oh, you're wonderful, you're perfect, you're so nice, and this, they don't really help. They don't help to improve you. It also, fearness also arises when you have sila or morality. When you have observed the precepts not to kill, not to steal, not to commit sexual misconduct, not to lie, and not to take intoxicants, alcohol, drugs, and all that, which disturbs the mind. When you keep that, maintain that discipline, then you become fearless. You haven't done anything wrong, so you don't have to fear. There's no fear because you haven't done anything wrong. No matter what, if somebody comes to hurt you, you can withstand that, because you become fearless. And other situations, when somebody blames at you, you don't tremble. When you go in an assembly of people and you stay with the assembly of good people, you don't become fearful because you haven't done anything wrong. So that's a fearlessness through samadhi, meditation, fearlessness through morality. So one has the guts, one has the guts to look at things and not take them in the wrong way. One has the wisdom to contemplate and reflect upon life. One has the security and confidence of sila, the strength of one's moral commitment and determination to do good and refrain from doing evil with body and speech, body, mind, and speech. In this way, the whole things hold together as a path for development. It is perfect path because everything is helping and supporting the body, the emotional nature, the sensitivity of feeling, and intelligence. They are all in perfect harmony, supporting each other. So when you do this, then this happens. When that happens, this happens. When this happens, that is a cause and effect, a chain of cause and effect, where the first condition is like dominoes. First condition triggers the next condition. The next condition triggers the next condition. And then you go roundabout. And it's all supporting each other. Without that harmony or instinctual nature, without that harmony, our instinctual nature can go all over the place. If we have no moral commitment, then our instincts can take control. Our natural instincts or animal instincts can take control. For example, if we just follow sexual desire without any reference to morality, then we become caught up in all kinds of things that cause self-aversion. There is adultery, promiscuity, and disease, and all the disruptions and confusion that come from not reining in our instinctual nature through the limitations of morality. We can use our intelligence to cheat and lie, We can use our intelligence to cheat and lie, but when we have a moral foundation, we are guided by wisdom and by samadhi. By wisdom and by mindfulness, by concentration. These lead to emotional balance and emotional strength, but we don't use wisdom to suppress sensitivity. We don't dominate our emotions by thinking and by suppressing our emotional nature. This is what we have tended to do in the West, suppression of our emotional nature. We used our rational thoughts and ideas to dominate and suppress emotions, our emotions, and thus become insensitive to things, to life, and to ourselves. So in the West, there is a lot of emphasis on thinking. In the East, in Asia, is more emphasis is on intuitive connections or the heart. So in Asia, the heart is more emphasized. In the West, it's the intellect. However, in the practice of mindfulness through Vipassana meditation, the mind is totally receptive and open, so that it has the fullness and all-embracing quality. What we mean by all-embracing quality is we accept whatever comes without being annoyed or aversion, having aversion, hatred, or dislike, or complaining a lot about it. We absorb it without being hurt, but acceptance. And this acceptance lets us let go of certain things. It doesn't mean we're ignoring things. We know things are happening, but we understand that this is life, this is what happens in life. And we don't get too much caught in the negative emotion reactions. We respond in silence. So this embracing quality, and because it is open, the mind is also reflective. When you concentrate on a point, your mind is no longer reflective. It is absorbed into the quality of that object. So all these things, you don't have to worry too much. You will understand little by little. It will become natural to us as you meditate and as you walk on the Eightfold Path. Things will just automatically, without you having to think too much about it, fall in places. The reflective ability of the mind comes through mindfulness. All mindfulness. You are not filtering out or selecting. You are just noting whatever arises, ceases. You contemplate that if you are attached to anything that arises, it ceases. Whatever arises, it arises through causes and conditions. Whatever ceases, it's due to those causes and conditions running out of energy or going their ways and just petering away, just using up the energies. So arising and ceasing is a very important concept. So you contemplate if you're attached to anything that arises, it ceases. You have the experience that even though it might be attractive, while it is arising, it changes towards cessation. Then its attractiveness diminishes and we have to find something else to absorb into. So this is the nature of craving. We see craving, we feel satisfaction, and then it ceases, and then we have to go and work for more. Attractive craving arises and then it ceases again. It gets satisfied, and we keep on doing and doing, and we get tired and exhausted emotionally. We get stressed as well. So the thing about human beings is that we have to touch the earth. We have to accept the limitations of the human form. This is a world which is not perfect. It's not going to go the way we want. Things always go the way, things always go in the opposite way to what we want. We want things this way, it turns out to be that way. We want things that way, it turns out to be this way. That's how it is, you know. We fix this thing and this problem arises. We try to fix this and this happens. And you can see it in countries. You know, in Russia, they had killed a lot of birds because of some farmers had problems. So they killed the birds, then the insects came up and did more harm. So you try to fix one thing, something else happens. You fix that, something else. It's complicated. There's so many things involved. Everything is interconnected. So you cannot try to fix everything. You know, no matter what you do, the consequences and the negative impacts will be there. That doesn't mean you don't have to fix things, but you know, just be prepared for things going not your way. So the limitations in the human form in this planetary life, we have to accept the limitations. And just by doing that, then the way out of suffering isn't through getting out of our human experience by living it in refined conscious state, but by embracing the totality of all the human and Brahma realms through mindfulness. In this way, the Buddha pointed to a total realization rather than a temporary escape through refinement. What we mean by refinement is through meditation, attaining to very high states of meditation. By practice, you know, it's not difficult. The more you practice, the more easier it becomes. But what we're saying is that even though meditation helps, but we just develop wisdom. Eventually we develop wisdom, so everything fits in nicely and it develops into a complete understanding. So escaping through refinement and beauty, this is what the Buddha means when he's pointing to the way to Nibbana. But, you know, meditation is very much encouraged more and more because you're learning to stop the process of becoming. And you're not generating karma, you're generating wholesome states of mind by meditating. By developing the wholesome states of mind, we are generating wholesome karmas. And not getting involved in so many situations that can turn out in such different ways. The Eightfold Path is a reflective teaching. In this Eightfold Path, the 8 elements work like 8 legs supporting you. It's not a 9-fold path, it's not a 7-fold path, it's 8 factors. Why there are 8 factors is because they're all pertaining to the mind and body. Body, speech, and mind. In this Eightfold Path, the 8 elements work like 8 legs supporting you. So we will talk about this next time. It's quite a lot of things to consider and to think about. So it's a wonderful way of looking at it, but we'll have to stop now and talk about it next time. So if there are any questions or suggestions or comments, it would be good. Otherwise, we'll go to the meditation aspect. All the interactions, all the atoms interact. That's what it is. The whole universe is atoms and energies, and our volition, all these kind of energies interact, and that's why everything is so complicated in a way. Although it looks very organized, the law of the Dhamma, law of karma, but law of karma is very, very complicated network of events that happen. So all things happen, like the weather patterns, you know, the chaos theory. Chaos theory says that if a butterfly flaps its wings here, there's a thunderstorm. Because of that, there's a thunderstorm somewhere else. So it's just a lot of causes and conditions that are at play. Sometimes it's simple. I have an interview, and when I have an interview, the car doesn't work. It's because I didn't maintain the car. I didn't think about servicing it, or maybe I didn't use the car for 3-4 days and the batteries run out. So there are so many conditions. There are major conditions and minor conditions, which which create these situations. Situations are happening. Things are happening because of conditions, because of causes and conditions. One thing leads to another. Because my car didn't work, I couldn't go to the interview. Because I couldn't go to the interview, I didn't get the job. Because I didn't get the job, my house went for sale. So all these are linked together. Everything is linked. Everything is interconnected. So it's very complicated chains of events that are at play. That's why the world is not simple. Oh, I want the world to be like this and it will be like that. I want the world to be like that. There's so much volition, so many people's thoughts, energies going into it. There are 7 billion people on the unit in the world. One person prays for rain, one person prays for sun, one prays for wind. All these people's thoughts, and they want certain things in certain way. They say, I don't want rain today. Somebody says, I want rain because their field is dry. So it's just the way things work because of causes and conditions. Everything is working on kind of certain laws, the gravitational laws, this law, the law of Dhamma, and all this is also another aspect of the way the universe works. But it's okay when you become more and more into this Dhamma, when you understand the Dhamma, it's okay, whatever you open up, you embrace whatever situation arises. You learn to embrace, you learn to see the conditions as, the flow of life without getting so upset. If it didn't rain today, then perhaps it might rain a week later, but it will rain, hopefully. But, we just, at certain things we cannot control. We cannot control the weather. Certain events we cannot control, they're beyond our control. But certain things we can control. The present, we can control our present. Through meditation, we can control the present, our present situation, our present condition internally, the present moment. We cannot control our past, we cannot control our future, but as far as our emotional minds, our practices, our development, our mental development, our suffering, our happiness, we can control that. But like we said, the whole world is a better situation. It's that it helps us, these challenges help us to develop. Our practices improves. If we had everything fulfilled as we want, then we wouldn't grow spiritually or mentally. We wouldn't be able to become enlightened because of these frustrations that let us learn to let go. We'll talk about the mindful meditation. Now we do the counting method. So when we meditate on the breath, we count our breath as it comes out and goes in. When it goes in, we count 1. When it comes out, 1. Goes in, 1, 2. Comes out, 2. 3, 3, 4, 4, all the way to 9. Breath 9 in, 9 out. And then we go back to 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, out breath 3, all the way to 8. And then we go back 1, 1, 2, 2, all the way to 7. And then 6, 5, 4. And when we do that, and you are thinking about something else, and you're distracted and you don't know, oh, is this 6 or 5? Then you have to go back all the way to 1, 1, all the way to 9. This way you get some accountability. This way the mind has to concentrate. This way we are forcing the mind, to become more contained and making its energies more and more tighter. So this way it learns to stabilize. It learns to generate wholesome mental states, which are non-distraction and beautiful mental states of the mind. But it's practice, a little bit of practices that will help us. So don't get frustrated if you say you miscount, is this the 5th breath or 6th? You just gently go back to beginning of the practice, counting in 1, 1, all the way to 9, and then 8, 7, 6, and then again you make a mistake, then you go all the way to 9 again until you do like 3 or 4 cycles of the 9, then your mind, you will see, is becoming more and more settled, more and more tranquil. So this is another way to a more kind of controlled situation. In the beginning, last time we talked about meditation was just to be aware of your breath going in and out, like you're on the ocean, the waves are coming in, going out. It's just soothing. I will just do a loving kindness suffusion with divine abiding at the end of the meditation. It's nice to do spread a loving kindness vibrations throughout the universe. I will abide pervading 1/4 with a mind imbued with loving kindness. Likewise, the 2nd, the 3rd, likewise the 4th, so above and below, around and everywhere, to all as to myself. I will abide pervading the all-encompassing world with a mind imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, and without hostility, without ill will. I will abide pervading 1/4 with a mind imbued with compassion. Likewise the 2nd, likewise the 3rd, likewise the 4th, above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself. I will abide pervading the all-encompassing world with a mind imbued with compassion, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. I will abide pervading one quarter with a mind imbued with gladness, likewise the second, likewise the third, and likewise the fourth. So above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself, I will abide pervading the all-encompassing world with a mind imbued with gladness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. I will abide pervading the one quarter with a mind imbued with equanimity, likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth. So above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself, I will abide pervading the all-encompassing world with a mind imbued with equanimity, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. We should have this attitude of the mind of sending out our loving kindness, compassion, gladness, and equanimity throughout the world.